Now, electoral body INEC has begun a review of its conduct of the 2023 general election. Now, reviewing the conduct of the polls, INEC chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu says that compared to some previous elections, the 2023 general election was one of the most meticulously prepared for in recent times. The review by INEC is coming just days after the European Union International Observation Mission released its report on the polls and identified 6 key areas INEC needs to improve. The 6 priority recommendations point to the need to remove ambiguities in the law, establish a publicly accountable selection process for INEC members, ensure real-time publication of and access to election results, provide more excellent protection for media practitioners, address discrimination against women in political life, and impunity regarding electoral offences. Just before we look at those key areas, here's what the INEC chairman had to say about the elections earlier.
Above divergent opinions about the outcome of the election, the overall outlook suggests that it is fair reflection of a complex multi-party democracy. We wish to remind Nigerians that elections were held for a total of 1,491 constituencies, made up of 1 presidential, 28 governorship, 109 senatorial, 360 federal constituencies, and 993 state assembly seats. Our record shows that these elections have produced the most diverse outcomes ever produced since 1999. Today, 5 political parties produce state governors. 7 parties won senatorial seats. 8 are represented in the House of Representatives and 9 in the state houses of assembly. Clearly, the 10th National Assembly is certainly the most diverse in party representation since 1999. In some states around the country, different political parties control the legislative and executive arms of government. What is clear from these records also is that the days of single-party dominance of our national politics are probably gone. Furthermore, many prominent candidates lost in the constituencies they contested, and political parties lost in some of their presumed strongholds.
To further discuss the EU key recommendations, I'm joined in the studio by Chairman Partners for Electoral Reforms, Ezenwa Nwagwu. Good to see you, Ezenwa, and thanks for your time as always. You've heard that of EU, and now the INEC chairman has spoken, and we need to start looking at some of those key recommendations. But first, speak to us for the Partners for Electoral Reforms. What's your own reading regarding the recommendations by the EU?
Well, I think that it is ritual for international election observation to come with reports. What the value of reports is to be able to see what you can take. There could be value in some of the things that they are recommending and see how you use it to strengthen your own processes. But Suleiman, generally, I like to always think that we need to moderate the arrogance of purposive election observation. And what I mean by that is that when you don't have the number, in terms of you rely on what I call whistle observation. You just come in, on election day, and on election day you visit just few polling units. Then you do rely on the domestic partners who eventually have better spread in terms of, so you need to be humble in terms of first putting out that limitation that you have, that in terms of your spread, your understanding of the local issues and all of that. If you look at that report, for instance, 4 of them are not INEC issues per se. They are not issues that INEC has to deal with. If you're asking for appointment, the mode for appointment of INEC officials, that you are not asking, INEC does not appoint itself. So the government does the appointment. And Suleiman, all of us are involved in the struggle for ensuring that credible people are appointed into INEC. Both the media and civil society have been co-joined in that struggle for a very long time. And it came to head in 2019 when, when about 19 or thereabout resident electoral commissioners were out, and they were replaced by people who we thought had, backgrounds that were not, very clear to a lot of us, conflict of interest issues and the rest of them. And with that, we then pushed that to the legislature, where the business of, ensuring that right people are appointed to right positions. But you knew what then happened in that. The whole issue around journalists, that's a security matter, as you know, providing level playing ground and secured environment for journalists is a security issue. So broadly, I think they put in quite a lot into the recommendations. But the structure, and that is for me where I have issue, the structure of the report started very, very negatively. And perhaps that's why you are seeing the backlash in terms of reaction. The structure itself continued with that negative trend, in spite of the obvious positives that you saw. You then come back and say, however, and I think that those positives are important for an IOM. But there's also a neocolonial conversation that I'm having with a few friends. And I'm saying, for instance, I don't know if there is an IOM to American election. I don't know if we send international observer missions to observe American elections in 2020 that are disputed, that even those disputes have not been resolved till today. There is something we need to begin to do as a people in terms of doing things right in such a way that we don't have people, external, playing the kind of role we are beginning to see international observer missions play.
Speaking of which, would it be okay for the international observers to also have locals now, talking about Nigerians, because some of these key issues, I'm hoping that our producers put them back on the screen, that the EU have spoken about, the 6 key issues, as highlighted by you. 4 of these are not within the purview of INEC. Perhaps if they had maybe members of your civil society group or some other members with them, they would have been able to point these out and say, wait a minute, this is not...
Well, they have domestic partners that they collaborate with. But, there's also the domestic international challenge that you see. And that's why I talk about humility, about the arrogance of international. In fact, in some literature, they call us local. They call us local observers. And in doing...
Sorry to cut you. I just wanted us to look at least one which falls within the purview of INEC and is very, very important. Ensure real-time publication of and access to election results.
Who gets access to election results? Who should have access to election results? Who has been denied access to election results? Those are the questions that you should be able to answer. And the first is to say that when you collect results at the polling unit, and I've discussed this with you, I think, in the last, at the polling unit, there are 2 ways that INEC has democratized results at the polling unit. The first is the form E60, which we call the People's Result Sheet, which INEC officials are mandated to paste at the polling unit. That is number 1. Number 2 is the form EC8A, which party agents are to have with security. The police and party agents must have results at the polling unit. Now, if you refuse to take your own result, it does not invalidate the result. So we need to establish where party agents have been denied access to results at the polling unit level. We need to establish that security agents who are mandated by our own legal framework to have these results have been denied that. That has not happened. And what has happened is the IREV. We always have not had IREV. IREV is part of the improvement by INEC itself. INEC itself is saying we need to paste these results. And I have used exams, for instance. If you write an objective exam and the results, the scripts are marked, and you collect your results at the examination hall. Now, pasting the results for you to cross-check what you have is an add-on. So this report is playing on the general sentiments of what happened with the IREV, that results were not posted real time. But it does not take cognizance of the fact that the real people who should have access to results are not denied, whether in 2019 or whether in 2023.
So quickly, if we can do this in 30 seconds, so what's your verdict on the EU Election Observatory Group on this 2023 election?
I think that there are positives in terms of what government itself needs to take on board. Those recommendations about the quality of people that are appointed into the electoral management body is important to take on board. It's important to look at logistic challenges. It is important to review, perhaps, you know, the general climate of election in our country. But we are at it. As a people, we are doing much more to improve, and we have improved our electoral processes in a significant way, better than the American way.
Ezenwa, Nwagwu, a fine place for us to end it. Many thanks for your time.